Okay, so today we're going to talk about, so last class for behavioral neuroscience, we're going to focus on the cerebellum and something called the temporoparietal junction. Okay, so let me start with the law. We're actually going to cover two laws: universal law, all is mind, and then law of gender. The law of gender I've talked to you extensively about. I told you about the Amazonians. I've told you about the British monarchy. I've talked to you about Dionysus and the serpents going up the caduceus and the sixth chakra and the unity principle. I mean, I've talked to you to death about the law of gender. I'm going to tell you again today, but I'm going to explain why this is so important. And if you go back to that lecture on the chakras, I told you that this is Mulan and the idea of the country and the masculine, the feminine, and she was a warrior. This sort of wraps it all together. So first of all, the law all is mind is actually to the human practically incomprehensible. Okay? The universe is cyclical. The universe is spherical. The universe is not hierarchical. That's why every spiritual tradition is a circle. The yin-yang, the astrology wheel, the seasons, everything is a circle. We as humans don't understand this. We need hierarchy. So think of the chakras, looks hierarchical because they're in an order, but really it's all cyclical. So this concept of all is mind, and this is super important because you guys are being therapists. The mind creates it all. For any client to not understand that they have created or buys into that they have created the mess of their life is somewhat the first snow globe you got to shatter. And it's hard. And I get resistance every day, every client. And what I say is just buy into it for the next hour, hour and a half, then throw it out the window so that I could do the work. And you might want to sort of frame it that way so that you can get past the resistance for a second. And the reason is that people cannot understand that they have created it all. Last week I talked about the fates. You're given your fate or your destiny and your karma from the past lives, but you don't even have to believe in past lives. It's enough that you create karma in this life, and your thoughts create it all. You have a bad thought, it creates a shit world. But people have resistance. That's why it's the seventh chakra. When I was doing the chakras, I specifically said, you get to the seventh chakra, you have a moment of, oh, cool, I meditated, saw God, and then you come right back into the body. We cannot sustain those levels of transcendence. We just cannot. We're too dense in the body. We're not capable. The most we can achieve is the sixth chakra. The sixth chakra is the law of gender. So when those snakes in the caduceus unify at the sixth chakra, this is the idea of a unified mind. This is what I call the shamanic state of consciousness. Oh, I can talk to my guides, but still be here with you in the ordinary state of consciousness. I'm in my body, but also connected. Yes?
For the sixth chakra, when you balance the masculine and feminine energy, can it go back to 0 to 100, or does it stay at 40?
That's a great question. That's what I'm going to talk about today. There's a thing called transformation, and then there's transmutation. And that's exactly what I'm going to talk about today. If it's in transformation, absolutely you will go back to your old level of consciousness. You might change a dot, but that's it. That's what most people do. Rarely ever do we transmute, which is the fire element, the third chakra, self-love, boundaries, own your kingdom, 48 to 52, you know the spiel, and make it your own. And that's the point of the cerebellum. The law of gender, all of the laws, but specifically the law of gender. So thank you for such a great question. The only way you're going to sustain what I call the ordinary state of consciousness, that's not my term, it's Castaneda's, and the shamanic state of consciousness, which is what I do. I'm not saying that I'm balanced. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I figured it out. Okay, yeah, I figured it out on the board, but in my life, not yet. Okay, so I'm in my body. I can have a conversation, but at the same time, I'm in shamanic state of consciousness and I can be getting the information, the unified mind here. Okay, so you can have intuition and flashes of intuition. That does not mean that you're unified and in the body at once. Many people, and I was that person, are dissociated from their body. They're living in the ether up here, totally dissociated, and they're not in the body. And this is why we see psychics and stuff woo-woo in the TV. They mock us because we're not grounded. Shamanism is really particular in that it specifically speaks to the body, being in the body, working in the earth, and then also using your connection to spirit. But you cannot sustain that change, clear your karma, dethrone your parents, do it differently, change your consciousness and raise your vibration if you don't have transmutation. And that is free will. So when I was younger, I used to bite my nails. My mom always had beautiful nails. So of course, value system again, Venus, the woman, all that. I wanted nice nails. So I started in 7th grade. I had a friend named Marlene, and every period, we had 7 classes, we would put this crap on our nails. Every day, 7 hours a day. On Friday, it would be a thick thing like this. I'd peel it off. We'd start again on Monday. My nails started getting long. That's transformation. I'm consciously choosing to not bite my nails. I have not achieved unified consciousness. I have not balanced the energies. I am still in teenager, trying to be an adult. Do I want to be a child and bite my nails? Stop and think teenager, make the choice to not bite it. Transformation. That's why when I taught you about the trans-theoretical model of behavior change, I showed you that it was a circle. And you go from pre-contemplation all the way to maintenance, and maintenance goes right back to pre-contemplation. Because you haven't really owned the behavior. I don't bite my nails now. I don't think about it. I'm not saying I don't put them in my mouth and pick at my nails, of course. But I don't bite my nails. I am not a nail biter. I have transmuted that. That change has become mine. That is a function of the cerebellum. The cerebellum is the fattest part of the brain. The fatness, the gluttony, so to speak, is linked to the planet Jupiter. Jupiter is linked to our spiritual growth. And I taught you the Fibonacci code, and I told you about the years of 12 cycles. And we're going to talk about that a little today with the Sleeping Beauty story. So when it becomes yours, you own it, it's automatic. You don't have to think about it. You've transmuted. That's true change. Then you've shifted the vibration. Then you've shifted the level of consciousness from moment of conception. Excellent question. Okay, now you start all over again, and then you have to go to the next behavior, and up it goes in the process. But there's gonna be that one thing that I like to cross, that incongruence that you're given at 14 to 16. Well, that's when you live it out. You're given at the moment of conception. That's gonna be the thing that you don't want to dethrone, that you make the swings. Okay, until you own that one, transmute that one, you haven't sort of won the game of life. Okay, so the law of gender is really the most that men and women can really understand of all of the spiritual laws. That's sort of like the one we get stuck on. So we have an Amazonian story where it's masculine and feminine. We have the British monarchy where I talked about the male and female. I told you about the bedroom being a manifestation of where the energies are. Women go to work and make the money now. Men are weaklings sometimes. They're castrated by their own parents. We can see the masculine, feminine in the chart. How many masculine polarity versus how many feminine polarity? That's going to be your manas prakriti. That's going to be your imbalance, so to speak, healthily. And you're going to live that out. You're going to see the overt power currency or the covert power currency, male, female, traditional gender roles. Not that we buy into those anymore, but they're there in the law. Okay, the yin-yang, a little bit of the black and the white, a male and the female, and a little bit of the female and the male. In Jung, anima animus, the masculine principle and the feminine, the feminine principle and the masculine. It's said everywhere in astrology, in psychology, in mythology. This is really all we get. If you're lucky enough to understand all is mind and have glimpses into that, lucky you. But most people you're going to work at the highest level is the masculine feminine polarity. Now, what has happened? The feminine polarity has been devalued, absolutely, completely devalued. Okay? It started back in the day when your parents would arrange your marriage, right? And women had no choice but to marry, and I was in that, even in modern day, to marry the person that they deemed valuable. Woman, total useless. Then you got married and the woman was subservient. These are sort of the traditional gender roles. That's not true. And today I'm going to talk about the high vibration and why we need the feminine. And the feminine is the answer. It is the answer to balance the masculine. And we totally negate it until beyond 52. When we dethrone, then we finally start with the importance of the feminine. Okay? So the masculine principle, arranged marriage, then the woman was subservient, she stayed home. The male was valued because he made the money. Then we went 0 to 100 and women said, screw the man paying for me. I'm going to go to work and work. Male principle, people. Female nowhere to be found. The female principle still nowhere to be found. All we did was become the men. Female still dead. And now we're trying to figure out how we clean up this mess. And the answer is in the mythology of the graces that then make room for the muses, the arts, the poetry, history, tragedy, comedy. Everything that we enjoy through our senses is God. But the senses, that's the origin problem. The senses in every religion and tradition have been beat your body. Your body's evil. Your body makes you want to have pleasures. And I told you in the pain is pleasure and the pleasure is pain lecture. Okay, the body has always been deemed wrong and evil and the fall of man. That's a lie. It is only through our senses, through our eyes, our ears, our nose, our taste, our touch, that we in this earth, be here now, famous book by Ram Dass, can we actually experience God. And it comes from the feminine principle. If you ever saw that movie where The Rock, that Hawaiian, Polynesian Disney film, that one, what's it called? Moana. You see Mother Earth is the huge, remember that? That is God. God on earth is the feminine principle. She is all the beauty in the world. She's all the elegance, the grace, the laughter. The graces are mirth, elegance, youth, and beauty. But we don't value those things. And what we've done instead is value the low vibration Venus, the low vibration Aphrodite, not the third chakra self-worth, and then, if it exists, love thy neighbor. No, we've turned it into sex, into makeup, into selfies, into shallow. So people associate men and women as shallow, as the feminine principle as useless, as the feminine principle as nothing. The origin is way, way back. Because in religion, the way to dominate was to feed the masculine principle, get your ego going, work, 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 make a salary, pay the church, the more money, the bigger the certificate you're going to heaven. And the feminine principle started dying and dying and dying and dying. It's in every mythology. The woman gave Adam the apple. And the woman is the problem. And in Muslims, the women have to be in the back because the man might get an erection when he's praying. It's not the woman, it's the feminine principle. And all of us have been castrated through the feminine. That's why the artists are the modern day philosophers. Because they write songs and poems and put on theater, things that make our heart and our soul vibrate. That's the high vibration. I wake up every morning and listen to the Hanuman Chalisa. It is chanting music at a very, very high vibration. My body just vibrates. I need that feminine principle in my life because I don't naturally migrate to that. I love the theater. There are 9 muses. I'll send you a worksheet that I created for the book on which one did your parents instill in you. Your parents forced a masculine principle on you. Go to work, go to school, do this, do that, your ego, be the leader, all the stuff, the masculine, all of us. But they also instilled a feminine principle. They either gave you love of music, ballet, dance, tragedy, comedy. They took you to the theater. I took my kids to the theater every weekend. Kids theater and then adult theater, not movies, live theater like Broadway and off-Broadway. That was my muse. And it all stemmed from one story from my childhood that my parents actually took us to the theater in Miami Beach. And that stuck with me. And I didn't notice it until much later in life, how I became obsessed with Broadway and obsessed with the theater, live theater. And when I was divorced and I was alone, my kids were with their father, I would hop around Miami and Fort Lauderdale and go to every little theater production there was. So I always had the feminine principle, not as the primary one, but I always had God. I always had, especially at those darkest times of my life where I thought God had abandoned me or spirit had abandoned me, I actually always had it. And that's the way to incorporate and make the unity to balance the masculine. The masculine has and always will, because the masculine is the ego. And between 0 and 7, mainly at 2, the terrible 2s, is ruled by the planet Mars, which is the ego. We then see full-fledged development of personality by 7. And we say this kid is stubborn, and this kid's a hard worker, and he's really great at school. And we only value the freaking masculine principle in this earthly realm. Before, your parents arranged the marriage. Someone to penetrate you. Someone to pay your bills. Masculine principle. Women started castrating their men. They penetrated life. They penetrated themselves. They penetrated themselves with their salary, and they honored the masculine principle. Again, this whole feminist, the whole we are liberating shit. We have more work and more jobs and less money. Total nonsense. Because we have failed to include Venus, Aphrodite, the feminine, through the senses, but high vibration. Not sex, not selfies, not social media, not makeup artistry. All that's important. I'm not criticizing that. I'm saying, but through a high vibration version of Venus. And I told you in the Game of Life video that there was one shortcut to win the game of life. Uranus was castrated by Saturn, and Venus was born. The problem is that everybody wants this. It's necessary. Masculine, feminine. The only way we're going to change, first of all, is to incorporate the feminine principle. And instead of Mars, not instead of, but in addition to, we honor Saturn, which is exactly who castrated Uranus to birth Venus. We've forgotten about Saturn. Limits, boundaries, saying no, the 48 to 52, no. That principle no one wants. We want freedom. We're so free. We're the country of freedom and independence. No one's free and independent when your friggin' psyche is a piece of shit. Come on now. So we work and we work and we work and we have sex and we fight and we're angry and we go and will and determined and aggressive and assertive. But no one wants to say no. No one wants to give themselves a boundary. Saturn, the adult, no one wants to grow up. This is still the terrible 2s, people. You're still a kid when all you're doing is work. It's still a 0 to 100. Balancing them and shifting the vibration of Mars to Saturn, balance, limit, efficiency, having less hours in the week so that you could do more Venus. That's the true masculine and feminine law of gender. at the highest vibration. You don't get there until you get to that second do of the law of octaves, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. Do, you change your vibration. You make the change your own. You realize that your life has been nothing but go, 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 go. Either you being penetrated or penetrating others, fighting with others, violence, this, that, aggressive, assertive. And no one wants to say no, set a boundary. We just want to go and go and go because it's a validation need. Mars, the ego, the terrible twos, the personality, all of that is a validation need because if I work harder, I'm more worthwhile. If I do this, I'm more worthwhile. If I clean the house cleaner, I'm more worthwhile. And we're misusing this energy terribly. So we need a transmutation to Saturn, which is the adult male. Mars is the young male, is the immature masculine principle. Saturn is the mature, higher vibration masculine principle. And Venus, that we've all castrated, that we've all forgotten about, or we're living in low vibration with makeup, high heels, and, whatever else. So this is super important. Okay, what is the psychological application? I've told you about the hard edges and the soft corners. That's what this is. Saturn is the hard edges, okay? If I don't have hard edges with clients, I am basically wasting their time. My consciousness coaching program, I teach the hard edges and the soft corners. That's the answer. The high vibration of Mars and which is Saturn, and the high vibration of Venus, which is Venus, at the beautiful muse graces level. So I have a student, she's in my consciousness coaching program, and I said to her, of your hour session, you guys too, how much time are you going to let the client have for their story? For you to listen empathically, compassion, give them that space. You need those soft corners. I'm working on those. I have very hard edges. You need that. But if you spend the whole hour just letting the client just talk, there are times in a person's life, please. Obviously, that's what we're learning in psychology, that they need just that. I needed that when I was in my grief. But then you have to do the hard edges. You gotta get to work. If not, like I told you before, you're just jerking each other off. You're the greatest therapist that ever lived, they're the greatest person that ever lived, and no one changes their life. You need both. At the highest vibration that none of us had, father, mother. The quintessential father-mother is the dad that's the authoritarian, goes to work. That's a low vibration Saturn. And the low vibration mother was the one that cooked and cleaned and put the little house. That was the quintessential home. We need to raise that vibration. You want to be alone, you want to pay your bills, you want to own your life, you want to be a true Amazonian. The true Amazonian ripped off her breast because, yes, she was a warrior and she kept men off the island, but she also was an authoritarian that said no, that owned her ground, that was balanced. And then she had her baby here, teaching law of gender. I'm the male, but the real masculine principle, the one with order, not the tyrant king. This is the tyrant king. I'm a baby. I want to have a king. Anyone see Game of Thrones? That little kid, I couldn't stand him. The annoying kid that got the throne when the king died. A tyrant king. A baby. An orderly king knows how to own his kingdom in the right way. That's the high vibration. Some of you might have had a father that way. I think I did. And I actually had a mother, pretty Venusian, maybe not super high vibration, but there. So I kind of come from that typical snow globe. But this is what is in our psyche as the parents of how they should be. But our parents live out wrongly. They might yell, they might scream, they might own the money, they might put the limits on your time to curfew, and then your mom was all like submissive and whatever. That's changing. Doesn't mean inverting the roles, that you're the yeller and screamer and the mother that is not submissive and your husband being submissive is that you gained anything. You just flip the roles. You put the white in the black and the black in the white. Nothing changed. If we don't transmute through the cerebellum, it is striatum, meaning that the surface is smooth. It is all responsible, the striatum, the cerebellum, for voluntary movement in our system. Change is voluntary. Free will, your choice is voluntary. You could do it asleep, you could do it awake, you could do it super woke, you pick. I told you, you get a little shriveled up apple no matter what. You're gonna get a little growth by virtue of being human and having a spirit. Or you can have a big ass jackfruit on your tree. That is choice. People choose their life, their situations, hold them accountable. Hold yourself accountable. Take personal responsibility. Not in a Mars way, I'm a piece of shit. That was my whole sword. I had the sword, the big sword that I would beat myself with my thoughts. It was like, Harry Carey, you're a piece of shit, you're fat, you're ugly, you're a loser. Work harder, make more money, be the masculine, pay the bill. Ridiculous nonsense. Then I put down the sword and I picked up Dino, that means little sword. A higher vibration. I still have to walk him. I still have to hold accountability. I still have to pay my bills. I have to eat my fruits and vegetables. I have to show up for work. But my thought nonsense of hating myself ended because I showed up high vibration masculine principle. So it's not flipping the roles, it's transmuting the roles. This is a tyrant king that lives in your kingdom, in your thoughts, wreaking havoc. Remember the myth of Abderus when Hercules had the man-eating mares? That's this. This is an orderly kingdom where you're on your throne and they're on theirs. You don't take theirs and they don't take yours. And that's Venus, that's self-love. It is this combo, not this combo. We have to start off with the masculine, feminine polarities and male and female and all this stuff. But if you want true spiritual growth, if you really, really want to win this life, that shortcut is the answer. Or you can go the whole rug-a-loo and get there anyway. But we have confused the law of gender at a very, very misinterpreted and a high price. A high price. So that was a great question. Thank you. Okay, so we need love, compassion, empathy, and forgiveness, but we need it for ourselves, people. You're not helping anybody if you're empathic and loving and kind and you're treating yourself like a crazy in your thoughts. Again, I like Thin Crust, a total incongruence. You forgive yourself. You love yourself. But I'm going to beat myself up over here. In the ancient traditions, the gurus wouldn't talk. They would vibrate at the vibration, at the level of vibration of that law of octaves. And just with their vibration, they would tell you what their values were, what they believed, what they valued about themselves. They never had to say a word. In shamanism, you go on a vision quest. You go 3, 4, 5 days in the jungle, in the wilderness. You come out, you learn something about yourself. You have that aha, a transcendent moment, and you come back to the village, and the villagers say, oh, I see you've gained courage. Oh, I've seen you gain insight. You don't say a word. People show you what you are. That's why they're in your life. It's the mirror. It's the step 2 of the model. Okay, so this is very important. So I said Amazons, male, female, but really they had this going on. If you ever saw the Wonder Woman movie, not the latest one, but the one before with Chris Pine, at the end of the movie, she solves the world. Why? Because she was love. It's always about love. Buddha preached it. Jesus preached it. But you can't jump to the 4th chakra and love thy neighbor and forget about thyself. It doesn't happen. If you don't give yourself boundaries and other people boundaries, you ain't loving them and you ain't loving you. It's the selfish. There's no way around it. I don't know how else to say it. I think you're sick of hearing me say it, but that's what's going on. Okay, so I want to quickly, because I'm short on time, go through the Sleeping Beauty story. The Sleeping Beauty story is such a great story. It has all the characters, all the archetypes, all the players in the game of life. Aurora is Zeus. She was said by Maleficent she was going to be pricked, keyword, by a spinning wheel. By being pricked, they're talking about the male principle. We're going to give you over to Prince Philip to prick you. Maleficent shows up as the shadow, dethrone your parents. Don't get pricked by Prince Philip, go find your own way. They ship her off to the wilderness with the 3 fairy godmothers. That's the story of Zeus. Zeus was going to get swallowed by his father because he was allowed to dethrone, just like Aurora was trying to dethrone her parents, and he was shipped off. The Sleeping Beauty is the Zeus. Maleficent says at 16, I've told you that between 14 and 16, the child tries to dethrone you for the first time. They try to say, leave me at my friend's house. I don't want anything to do with you. That's what she tried doing. So Maleficent is the shadow. Maleficent is the neutralizer, the person, place, thing, or situation that shows up in your life to say, hey, parents, change this, it ain't working. So she tried to violate the law of the kingdom, which was to dethrone the king and queen. Aurora means dawn. In astrology, dawn is the descendant, where the sun is setting. That rules the marriage. That is how you will create your home life. Male, female, female, dog, it doesn't matter. You are going to build your home, your family, your relationships on the sign of the 7th house cusp. Your job is to raise the vibration. Okay? That's what she tried doing. That's why they named her Aurora, Dawn. And she said, I'm not going to marry the guy you said. I met a guy in the park I want to marry. We do it all wrong. Oh, you don't want me to marry an old guy? Well, guess what? I'm going to marry an old guy. Nonsense. 0 to 100. You end up doing what your parents want anyway when it's 0 to 100. You're not messing them up. Zeus, at 12 years old, is the first round of Jupiter in our chart is at 12. At 12, we start seeing that our parents are not perfect. I'm going to send you a worksheet. At 14, you start saying, I know you're not perfect because I saw it at 12, but I wasn't allowed yet, universal law, to dethrone you, but I'm going to start now between 14 and 16. So she's living out the stages. What happens? They put the whole kingdom under a sleep. Sleep is Neptune. Sleep is low-level consciousness. Let's keep Aurora and everybody else in sleep mode, everyone in your life, in your kingdom, in your family. Let's not ever unstuck the traffic jam so that you can stay asleep and everyone's a crab in a pot and everyone stays the same low-level consciousness. That's what that means. This story has all of it, okay? Briar Rose is her other name. Briar Rose means thorny bush of wild roses. Mars, Venus. She's trying to up it to own her kingdom, to say, no, here's a boundary. I don't want to marry Prince Philip. I want to marry the guy I met in the forest. Happens to be the same guy, because inevitable, you're going to marry your mother or your father. That's just the way it is, okay? What else? Oh, just a quick thing. The word salary comes from salaire, or soldier's wage. Again, the warrior archetype, the Mars archetype, salary. So women, when we gave up the home to go to the street to work, we didn't change anything. We just became the male principal, money, money, money. Again, validation means we're still worthless. This shot to shit. The arts. I told you, the arts are God on earth through the senses, low-level vibration, which are necessary, smells and perfumes and music and poetry. High-level vibration is self-love. High-level vibration are the clairs, claircognizance, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairgustance. That's how we connect with God. Through our senses in the body, like the shaman, I also connect to the spirit world, the high-level Venus and the low-level Venus, which is the body, the 5 senses. 5 is the number, when we did the Enneagram, the number of the child that's fun. The number of the child that represents growth. At the number 5 in the Enneagram, 5 cycles, every 5-year cycles, 5 to 7, you renegotiate. That's your spiritual growth. One last thing. A lot of research is being done on the temporoparietal junction. It's 2 lobes of the brain, and there's a dot in the middle. That midpoint, they're studying generosity and selfishness. And that bothers me because they're not defining, obviously, the way I define them. The problem is, the more I read, they're saying we really don't know generosity and selfish. What we know is perceived value. And it goes back to my lecture of mind your plec, know your price, know your place. If you don't know your place in the kingdom, if you don't own your power, if you're not on your throne, you're 48 to 52, I don't care how much you work, it's all a show. It's all for validation. You're not really the money maker. The money maker in the chart is Capricorn, which is Saturn. Mars is the go, 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 go. The 400-hour work week, you're available 24/7. Saturn is like, no, I have a schedule, and then I'm closing my laptop and going on vacation because I have a family. Very different. I gotta go. Bye, guys. I love you.